Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now March 27th of 2025, and given that the Snow White box office disaster continues, the drama between both Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot is only worsening over time, and at the same exact time between all of that, we know that Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, the board of directors, the many executives over there, are really just scrambling right now to just get past this movie and call it quits, and just move on to other projects. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01, and thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Rachel Zegler is that we know that she created a lot of chaos, not just within Disney, but also within the entire film industry. There are a lot of studios that do not want to work with her anymore. There are various studios out there that are honestly deeply offended, not just over the public comments that she made toward many of the fans of Disney when it comes to Snow White, when it comes to the iconic pop culture character, but one thing in particular has a lot to do with the whole blacklisting situation toward Rachel Zegler and exactly what's really going on there and how it's even worse than we all initially thought. Now, focusing on Zegler here, we already know that she is one that likes to scapegoat. She is one that likes to play the victim card. She will never accept any kind of responsibility when it comes down to the chaos that she created, both on set or in studio, or even, quite frankly, in the public eye when it came to promoting and working for Snow White. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because one thing is for certain now is that we know that Snow White as a whole, we know that this movie already lost $300+ million for starters. It is most definitely higher than that, but that's just a rough estimate because of how much money they poured into the budget, to the marketing campaign, to traveling expenses for Rachel Zegler. I mean, the list goes on and on. Now, what's interesting about this is that with the Walt Disney Company dealing with the ongoing backlash related to Snow White and Rachel Zegler, as they are desperate to move on from this film, one massive development going on now involves more to do with the blacklisting of Zegler and exactly how her behavior has been after this development took place. It turns out that the blacklisting of Rachel Zegler is a whole lot worse than initially thought. A shocking turn of events is that Paramount was just about ready to sign Zegler on for a major movie role for a new thriller film that is now in active development, where she was going to be involved as one of the main lead characters in the story. Now, the main reason why Paramount and many other studios were getting ready to sign Zegler for so many roles was that they believed Snow White would turn her into the new it girl in Hollywood by Disney, and that turned out to be quite the opposite. Paramount just recently decided to torch Rachel Zegler, not just from their upcoming thriller film that is going to be announced in the coming days, but they also blacklisted her from the entire studio as a result of the Snow White backlash, and her recent comments that went viral across social media that got way too involved in politics. Now, another major Hollywood studio that decided to ditch Zegler, surprisingly, was by Legendary Pictures, and how they were partnered with Warner Brothers for a new upcoming Godzilla film that Zegler was supposed to take part in as one of the main side characters for a new MonsterVerse movie that they plan to drop in 2027. Zegler was supposed to play one of the main human characters in the third Godzilla and Kong crossover film. However, both WB and Legendary decided to also boot her from that project just recently after the Snow White box office metrics were quite abysmal, and just how much negative attention she is garnering. Now guys, before I move on from that, let me just say one thing about this. I think that WB and Legendary made the right call there by not only booting her from the third Godzilla vs. Kong crossover film, but also from any other movie in the future associated with WB and or Legendary. Very good move on their end. I think that was a definite necessary move to do, because we all know that anything Rachel Zegler touches or is involved in ends up being a box office disaster, right? Especially now, because so many people know about her since she was actually across the board in mainstream, news channels out there. Everyone pretty much knows who Zegler is right now. It's not just people scrolling on the internet. It is people that are just watching their day-to-day news that are hearing about the Snow White drama. That's how bad it truly is. That's how bad of a situation Disney is in right now that they're trying to just scurry out of as fast as possible. So again, I think it's a very good and smart move that some of these studios within Hollywood are just calling it quits with Zegler, because they knew going into this that it would only create more chaos just like Disney. Now, she was also crossed out as a potential actress for hire in the future, as they would never want to work with her again after the Snow White fiasco and, of course, the Snow White issues that she created, and the drama with Gal Gadot behind the scenes as well, which reportedly offended many major Hollywood producers and executives across the board behind the scenes in Hollywood. In fact, it was Zegler's issues with Gal that erupted both on set for Snow White and in studio that spread through all of Hollywood that led many major producers of various studios to outright reject Zegler from ever getting involved in their films again or at all. Now, look, not a big shocker there. The fact that she really wants nothing to do with Gal Gadot just because she supports her country, just because she supports everything to do with Israel, that really just goes to show you exactly how Rachel Zegler likes to drag politics and people's personal, preferences into the actual production or the press tour of a movie. Look, you never mix politics with a movie when you are on a press tour or when you're doing something behind the scenes or when you're trying to complete a specific part of the film and just creating more drama. I think at the end of the day, what Rachel Zegler should have done, she should have acted very professional and said, you know what, Gal has her opinion on things, let things just, be put to the wayside, let's get this movie done. I don't necessarily have to be friends with her, but I'll move on after this, I will just be a professional. But no, she had to be very insufferable, she had to be very unprofessional, very out of line, to the point that, quite frankly, it really offended, like I said, tons of Hollywood producers and executives. Now, already Zegler believes that she is being treated unfairly. This was, of course, expressed through her agent and manager when communicating with the various studios letting her go. Zegler is already blaming, get this, the studios for holding a political bias, and that she believes that they are banning her essentially due to expressing a political opinion. Essentially, Zegler is just scapegoating from the real issue at the core. Many studios are dropping Zegler due to her behavior, her issues with Gal, the performance for Snow White, and her viral public comments on social media and in interviews. Again, this just goes to show you how Zegler has a real narcissistic issue. I mean, that's a disorder, for sure. She even joked about being a narcissist multiple times, where I don't even think she was joking. I think that there are some truths to some jokes out there that people make. Not all the time, just saying sometimes. Especially in Zegler's case, I would not be too shocked if some of those jokes, deep down are actually reality, that she is indeed a narcissist, because she's acting like a narcissist. She really is acting very self-absorbed, very much, all about herself. She doesn't care about others' emotions and or feelings when it comes to an overall business model or a film that's supposed to make all this money. And obviously she contributed to the colossal failure of Snow White. Even if you had no Rachel Zegler drama, yes, it's true, this movie would have still been absolutely abysmal, but it wouldn't have been nearly as bad. You would have at least gotten some higher budget metrics, right? Box office metrics, I should say. Definitely on that part, there's no doubt about it. But I still believe at the end of the day, Snow White, it still would have been a flawed film regardless. But Rachel Zegler just put the final nail in the coffin there. Overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about the whole Zegler fiasco and everything else to do with her blacklisting within Hollywood. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.